Hey, what up, you guys? It's your girl Jasmine. You can also call me Chocolate Mini, and today I want to talk to you guys about living with hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism means that my thyroid levels are way too high than normal ranges. So there's two incidences that took place in my life that let me know I had thyroid issues. The most recent thing was back in May of 2022. This was when I was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, so almost a year ago. May of 2022, I wanted to get plastic surgery work done. So in order to get plastic surgery, your primary care has to approve you. And for years, I didn't have a primary care doctor. Like, after I got my own insurance, I kind of just stopped caring about the doctors, so I never went to the doctor unless I had an issue. So, I went to a dermatologist because I had psoriasis, or if I had like a minor issue, I would go to patient first for whatever the issue was, but I never had like a primary care doctor for at least 6 years. So when I knew I had this plastic surgery work that I wanted done, I had gone back to my childhood doctor and because I needed a primary care to sign off on the paperwork. So I did the physical or whatever so that she could sign off on the paperwork to approve me for plastic surgery. So I hadn't been monitored, like my blood pressure wasn't being monitored. Nothing was being monitored at this time, okay? I just figured I'm young, like there's no way I have any issues. I'm only at this time 31 years old, you know what I mean? So I would still go to the OBGYN and stuff, but like as far as the primary care doctor, like I never kept up with that. I never kept up with physicals or anything. So anyways, I got my physical right before my plastic surgery, and they did not approve me for plastic surgery because they said that my thyroid levels were way too high and that it could possibly cause me to have like a heart attack during surgery. Like it sounded so crazy and bizarre, and I was just like, what? Like, I'm only 31, what are you talking about? I'll be fine. I've had surgery before. I've had 2 knee surgeries, so I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like I recovered just fine from those. It was so weird. So of course I was irritated because I'm like, man, I wanted this plastic surgery, yada yada yada, but I had to go and get my thyroid straight. So let's just take a pause there. Back when I was younger, when I was 17, that's when I first learned that I had potential thyroid issues coming my way. I never started my period. I was 17 years old. I was fully developed. I had chest, I had curves, but I didn't have a period. And my grandmother was actually the one that told my mom, like, we should go get her checked out because she started her period at 8. My mom started her period at 11, and here I am 17 years old with no period. Now, I was very, very physically active in my late teenage years. I was playing basketball, and I wasn't overweight at this time. I was in healthy weight range. I think I was like 170, so I was very, very healthy. I wasn't underweight or anything. So the first thing that they did was they took me to the OBGYN, and the OBGYN said, like, it's very possible that because she's so physically active that she just didn't start her period normally, because apparently a lot of teenage girls, like if they're very active and they're working out a lot, they just don't always start a period. That's not abnormal, basically. So in order for them to get me to start my period, what they did was they gave me birth control pills, and that very last week that is supposed to be like the placebo pill, I was supposed to start a period. And I did start my period. So that was a medically induced period. And then the following month, they took me off the birth control pills to see if I would still start my period the way I was supposed to start it. And I did. So I basically just had to take birth control pills for 1 month, start my period, and then my body just started the period naturally every month after that. But there was still the underlying question of, well, why didn't I start my period in the first place? Some other symptoms that I had way back when was I was a very, very, very heavy sweater. Playing basketball, like when we would do our warm-ups and stuff, I would be the only one sweating, and we were like only 5 minutes into the warm up and I'm drenched in sweat. So that also sparked the whole, let's go take her to an endocrinologist to see what's going on. So when they took me to the endocrinologist, mind you, I'm still a teenager at this time, they did find a mass on my thyroid, a cystic mass, but at that time it was very, very, very small, and my thyroid levels were not like ridiculous. Like they did the iodine test, and I think they even did a biopsy back then. They did an ultrasound, and the endocrinologist at that time just said that, you know, he didn't feel like I needed to be on any medicine, but my thyroid needed to just be monitored over the years so that if any issues do come up later on in life, they can be taken care of. So I was never put on any type of thyroid medicine at that time. They just did a whole bunch of tests. So fast forward basically 12 years later, here I am trying to get this plastic surgery, and they're telling me that now my thyroid levels are ridiculously high and very unsafe. Some of the symptoms that I had at this time, so last year, okay, it's a lot. So if you have any of these symptoms, definitely go and talk to your primary care, or, you know, set up an appointment with your endocrinologist. So I told you guys I was a heavy drinker for years and years and years. At least for 4 or 5 years. But I started noticing that when I would wake up in the morning, I was always in night sweats. And I associated that with being a heavy drinker, because a lot of times if you get drunk the night before, you do wake up sweating and hot and just drenched in sweat. Like that's something that happens when you are a heavy drinker or a low-key alcoholic. So I'm not gonna use the word alcoholic, but I was definitely throwing them back. Okay, so that's what I associated that with. I was always hot, always sweating, especially at night. Now it was getting worse. Last year, there would be a lot of times where I was cold physically, like in my house, it was cold, my body was cold, but I would wake up and I would be drenched in sweat. Like it looked like I literally took a shower, okay? So that was not normal. I knew something was off, but I was also one of those people who was like afraid that something was bad and I didn't want to know what it was. That's just how I've always been when it came to the doctor. So sometimes I just wouldn't go because I didn't want to hear the truth or hear anything that might, you know, be super, super bad. So I just kind of dealt with it. Another symptom that I had was anxiety. I was always anxious. And it wouldn't even be something that was necessarily bothering me. I could literally just be watching TV, you guys, and then all of a sudden I would have this pit in my stomach and I would just start shaking and just being nervous. And sometimes my Apple Watch, because you know the Apple Watch is constantly reading your beats per minute, sometimes my Apple Watch would literally go off and be like, your heart rate is too high, please go and seek medical attention. Like it would be so weird, but I would literally just be sitting there and I'd be like, what the fuck? But I just took that as me being anxious and having anxiety, even though there was nothing that I was anxious about. So those are a couple of symptoms that I had. Also, it wasn't just the night sweats. I was always just hot, okay? Like sometimes I would keep my thermostat on 65. Like I was just always hot. But I also associated that with being extremely overweight, because a lot of times when you're very, very big, like I was, your body is just so insulated that you're always so goddamn hot. And my grandmother, she was always hot. So I just figured that's just something that ran in my family, just always being freaking hot. So those are the kind of the symptoms that I had. I wouldn't say, I never lost weight unless I was trying to lose weight. I did some research and it said that if you have hyperthyroidism, you have unexplained weight loss. That won't never my problem. Unfortunately, I was always big. So, but I did have the night sweats. I was always hot and I did have anxiety. And my husband said I was very moody as well. That's also another symptom of hyperthyroidism, just being moody. Like, 1 minute I'm perfectly happy and like at the switch of my fingers like snap, like I'm just totally pissed off, and it's not necessarily anything that happened, I just would be pissed off. So those are just some symptoms that I had as having hyperthyroidism. So okay, back to summer of 2022. After I didn't get approved for the plastic surgery, I had to go and get an ultrasound of my thyroid. Mind you, I had did this way back when I was 17, 18, and 19 years old. So that same cystic mass that was on my thyroid had doubled in size. And they could now at this point, and you can feel the, I think he called it a goiter, but you can feel this little mass right here on my neck. You can't see it, but when you touch my neck, you can definitely feel it. It's like right up in here. So it doubled in size. So I was able to go get in to see an endocrinologist, and he looked at my ultrasound and he looked at my thyroid levels, and he said that I have hyperthyroidism. He said that I could have Graves' disease, but when he did the blood work on that, I guess my thyroid levels weren't that high to where it's considered Graves' disease, but it was like a step down. So what he wanted to do was give me the IN1U radiation pill, which we're going to talk about. When he said that, when he used the word radiation, you guys, I just started crying. Because I'm just like, radiation? Is that cancer? Like, what's going on? So his approach, he wanted to give me this radiation pill, which could only be administered in the hospital. It's not something that I can take at home. I would have to go to the hospital. They're going to do a whole bunch of tests basically to figure out where exactly this mass is on my thyroid, because it's my thyroid and then there's just a cystic mass on it. It's not cancerous. It's not hurting anything per se. It's just there. But he feels like it's that mass that is causing my thyroid to produce so much more thyroid hormone than what's necessary. So what he wanted to do was give me that radiation pill to destroy the mass. But he said that it could also destroy my thyroid. Now, something that is very important to me is not being on any medication at all. I don't want any lifelong medicines, not even birth control. Like, I don't want shit in my body unless it's natural and God put it there. So that's why he wanted to do that approach, because he felt like if he could get rid of the mass, then my thyroid levels would go back to normal because now the mass is gone. However, the downside is, he said, it could also destroy my thyroid too. There's no way to get it to only destroy the mass. So at first I was going to do that in hopes that my thyroid gland would still be safe and untouched. But as we got closer and closer to time, I just kept pussyfooting around, you guys, and I just wasn't showing up to the appointments because I just couldn't have this radiation in my body. Like, I just wasn't comfortable with that. I understand they're medical professionals, but sometimes I just feel like you need a second opinion, third, fourth, and fifth opinion sometimes. And, you know, to put any type of radiation in my body, it just wasn't sitting well with me. I would rather have explored other options. So I didn't do that. The other option that I had was to take a pill, which I have right here, called methimazole, and take this for the rest of my life, which would go against what I said as far as not wanting to be on medicine for the rest of my life. But even if I went with the radiation treatment, I would potentially still have to be on thyroid medicine for the rest of my life if that radiation did destroy my thyroid. The third approach that they had was surgery, where they could just they could remove the mass. But because where the mass is on my thyroid, he said there's a good chance they would also have to take the thyroid as well. So it was basically both options where the thyroid is going to be taken, and I didn't want that because you need your thyroid. I need my thyroid. Like, I can't not have a thyroid unless I want to be on medicine forever. So I was like, let's just start with the medication, the methimazole, and see, you know, what happens from here. I have a second opinion appointment coming, but it's not till March. So I wanted to start with something now because, listen, the night sweats were just getting ridiculous. It was getting worse over the years, and at this point, I was like having to have the ceiling fan on every night just to avoid not sweating. Like, it was bad. And my husband, like, he would always be cold because it's so cold in the house. So I was like, let's just start with the methimazole and see where we're at. So he was like, okay. Now with the methimazole, he made me have to do 3 5 mg tablets a day. So that's 15 milligrams of methimazole that I had to take per day. And I did that for 4 weeks, most recently. So 4 weeks ago, actually, I started it. And you guys, the changes in my body after being on the methimazole, let me tell y'all, I went from always being hot to always being cold. Like, I'm freezing right now. And it's not just being a little cold, like, y'all, I'm freezing. Like, just imagine it's snowing outside and how cold it is when it's snowing outside. That's how I feel at all times now. Even when I'm working out, I'm cold. Like, I'm sweating, but I'm cold. So that's how that feels. Another thing that I noticed with the methimazole is I was sleepy. Like, not super sleepy, but instead of needing 8 hours a day of sleep, I'm needing about 10 or 11. So I was pretty sleepy. Another thing that I noticed was my appetite was decreasing. So that's all because of the medicine, the methimazole. And that's because they're trying to bring my thyroid levels down because they were so high. Yesterday, I had my appointment with my endocrinologist after being on the methimazole for 4 weeks now. They redrew my blood to see what was going on. I am no longer hyperthyroidism. He said that my thyroid levels are in pretty safe range, so he dropped my dosage. So before I was on 15 milligrams of methimazole a day. Now he dropped it to 5 milligrams of methimazole a day. So that's great. I'm no longer hyperthyroidism. So we're gonna see. He said that me being cold all the time should adjust now that I'm not taking as much thyroid medicine. But that was definitely a result of the thyroid medicine. Another thing is my beats per minute has gone down. My blood pressure yesterday was 122/80, which is really good. I've never had 122/80 blood pressure before. So I was always in that mid-high blood pressure range, and my bottom number was always around 90 or 95. So that's also really good. Now, see, this is where I'm not too sure, because I understand I had thyroid issues. But everything that was positive as far as my weight loss was concerned, when I saw the endocrinologist, he was blaming that on my thyroid being so high. For instance, he said that the reason why I had lost all the weight that I've lost is because of my thyroid. I could not disagree more, because I was working out and exercising and eating vegan like you guys have been seeing. And that's what happens when you try to lose weight. If it was because of my thyroid, why was I fat in the first place? You get what I'm saying? Like, I would have been lost weight. I wouldn't have been fat. Like, come on. So that, I wasn't too sure. The other thing, as far as the beats per minute for my heart rate, I was also overweight. So he was saying, oh, well, that's your thyroid. But I was also like 130 pounds overweight. Like, so me being overweight has nothing to do with that. Like, it's like he was like prepared to blame everything on my thyroid and not because of obesity. So that's why I was a little unsure about him at first, I'm not gonna lie, because it's like everything was just like, oh yeah, it's your thyroid, it's because of this, oh, it's because of this, you lost weight because of your thyroid. It had nothing to do with the fact that you've been working hard. You know what I mean? So like, we didn't get off on a good foot when we first met each other. Like, I was like, yo, he got me fucked up, bro. The reason I lost weight is because I've been working hard. Don't be trying to blame that on my thyroid, nigga. Like, it was like that. It was like that. I wasn't too sure about him at first. So anyways, back to yesterday. So he can still feel the mass on my throat, which I can feel as well. But he said that we can just monitor it, and in a year from now, get another ultrasound to see if it's gotten smaller, if it's gotten bigger. He thinks that if I continue on the medicine, that it might get smaller, because he said, like, your thyroid gland, it gets bigger and it gets smaller, it gets bigger and it gets smaller. So he's thinking that because the thyroid isn't having to secrete as much thyroid hormone anymore, it should slowly start to get smaller. And the reason why it was bigger was because it had to produce so much thyroid hormone. So that's where we're at. He lowered my dosage. And I said to him, I was like, so at what point can we try to see if my thyroid will just, do its thing regularly without the medicine? So he wants to give it another 2 months and then see where I'm at. Do more blood work, see where I'm at, and then see, think about taking me down a notch. He said the lowest dosage of methimazole that he could give me is 2.5 mg. So right now I'm at 5 mg. Then he'll bring me down to 2.5 mg. And then if everything still looks good, we'll try a month without it, the medicine at all, to see where we're at. As far as plastic surgery is concerned, he said another month of being on the methimazole and he'll be able to approve me on his end for plastic surgery. I still have to do my, physical again for my primary care and all that stuff. But as far as the thyroid is concerned, he'll be able to approve me. So that's definitely a blessing. That's great. So one of the things I can tell you guys is always get a second and third opinion when it comes to stuff. I understand, you have to do what's best for you, okay? And we don't all have the same goals in life. There are plenty of people who are give me all the medicine that I need, and, they're fine with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Modern medicine and science is a wonderful and beautiful thing. They're doing so many wonderful things with medication. It's amazing what they're doing. It's just for me, I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone. I'm talking about for me. I don't want to be on any medicine. I don't even want to be on birth control. I don't want anything in my body unless God gave it to me. I feel like my medicine is natural through the foods that I eat and the way I take care of my body. I don't know if that can be true for everything. And when I met my endocrinologist in the first place a few months back, I had expressed that to him. So me being plant-based and being vegan isn't going to fix any of my thyroid issues. And he said no. But a lot of times doctors are not trained to have those answers for you. That's not what they're trained to do. They are trained to put you on medicine. And honestly, I am one of those people who thinks that there's just a conspiracy with the food industry and pharma. That's just my beliefs, and that's what I think. So, I know for a fact that a lot of times doctors' offices are pushing certain medications. It's a whole industry, you guys, and don't take my word for it. I always want y'all to do y'all's own research on it, okay? Because I am not a professional and I'm not claiming to be a professional. All I know is there are a lot of times where different pharmaceutical companies will come into these doctors' offices and try to get them to get their patients on these different medications. And so these doctors will push certain pills, certain brands to patients, okay? But I also believe that a lot of stuff can be healed through the foods that we eat and staying away from certain stuff. So that's why I don't want to be on any medicine. Now, if God sees fit that I have to be on something, then I guess I don't have a choice. But I want to try my best to avoid being on medicine for as long as possible. Because listen, I seen my grandmother, she started with one pill of medicine, and over the next 5 years, she had a whole bag of medications, and then she died. So that's just a fear of mine, so not everybody has that fear. And I'm not saying that modern medicine isn't a wonderful thing that saves lives every day, because it does. I just want to avoid medicine at all costs for as long as possible. So that's why it was a big deal for me to not do the IN1U radiation pill. And honestly, just once you hear the word radiation, it just sounds crazy. It just sounds like some life-threatening shit. You know what I mean? Maybe they should call it something else. The minute you call it radiation, it sounds pretty bad. So that's why I opted not to do the radiation pill. It just wasn't sitting right in my soul. I prayed about it. My husband and I talked about it, and it just wasn't it was let's just explore other options to see what else is out there first. Let's talk to another doctor. So I still have my second opinion appointment in March. I am gonna go just to see what they say about that whole radiation thing. I would like the mass removed. So like I'm open to getting the surgery to remove the mass that's on my thyroid because it's still there, okay? And me taking the methimazole, that's not going to get it to go away. So I'm open to that. But if they have to take my thyroid with it, then no, I'm not open to that. If they can just take the mass, then let's do it tomorrow. But if they can't, if the whole thyroid gland has to go, then I'd rather, you know, try other things, continue to eat right, continue to exercise, and see where I'm at a year from now. You know what I mean? If it comes to that, it comes to that. But if I can control some things on my end, then that's what I'm gonna try to do. Another thing that I noticed was I always started my period on time every month. My period is always consistent. It's a very light period. There was a few years ago when me and my husband were trying to have a child, and so I had taken that ovulation stick to see like when I ovulate, and I never ovulated for like 3 months. Every time I was supposed to ovulate on like day 14, the stick would say I'm not ovulating. So I don't know if that also has something to do with having the hyperactive thyroid. My OBGYN said it definitely could, and she told me the ranges that I need to be in order to have a safe pregnancy and not a high risk pregnancy. So, you know, we're not trying to have kids anytime soon, so I'm not taking no ovulation stick right now, so I don't know if I ovulate now. But that was something that happened a few years ago where I'm like, okay, shouldn't I be ovulating? Why am I not ovulating? You know, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that your thyroid controls. And so it is very important to make sure that your thyroid levels are safe and in range. And you can have a thyroid shock, I think is what my endocrinologist called it, where you continue to let your thyroid levels be so ridiculously high, and then like you have to be hospitalized and stuff like that. Really, I believe that does happen. Like that does happen. I just want to try to get it under control with as little medicine as possible, and hopefully no more medicine in the future. So I hope this video has helped you guys. Again, I am not a medical professional by any means, so if you have any of these symptoms, I highly recommend that you reach out to your primary care, reach out to an endocrinologist, get it taken care of, because thyroid disease, thyroid issues, it is a very serious thing. It's very serious. Like it really can kill you, and it can really just cause a lot of unnecessary problems. Like the night sweats, I was having to change my bed sheets like every other night because I'm sweating so damn much. And my dog, my poor baby, he would be so cold in the house, and he would always only want to cuddle with me. Like he never wanted to cuddle with George in bed. And I think now looking back at that, I think it's because my body is producing so much heat that he was using me as a heater because he's so cold and my body is just so hot. So I think that's why he was always trying to get under my covers. But anyways, I hope that helps you guys, and I will see y'all in my next YouTube video. Bye.